Nothing in this podcast is intended as investment advice, and the people in this podcast may hold positions in the stocks they talk about. Do not buy any investment based solely on a tip or recommendation. Please do your own research.
Hello and welcome to the Midweek Takeaway. Today we're joined by Colin Bird, Executive Chairman of Bezant Resources. Welcome, Colin.
Hello there. How are you doing? Nice to speak to you both again, and doing well, fine. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome. We can just see that beautiful view in Cape Town, Colin. It's amazing, eh?
I know. It's like this miserable day. Anyway, it's not miserable, but it's just cold. And then you look out over Colin's shoulder and you see this beautiful blue sky. So the Hope and Gorob project update in Namibia, Colin, do you want to tell us how significant this was and about your very productive site meeting?
Productive is the answer. And of course, you know, COVID-19 movements have been restricted in and out, and taking views on projects from afar, just superficial visits. And of course, well, not of course, but this visit, I was able to really get into Hope and Gorob. And boy, did I get a surprise. And I shouldn't have been surprised, because I've seen it so many times before. Yes, you've got Hope and Gorob. Yes, they've got defined resources between them. But in actual fact, what I saw was a huge system, copper and gold rich, sometimes mostly to the favor of copper, but sometimes to gold. And you know, at the open end there, I've got this crop, and it's folding. You've never seen folding like it, turning over on itself. And at Gorob, much more simple and a uniform body. But what interested me was all of these, results, about 155, 160 meters, was I better not name the groups, but where the South African groups were drilling. And I stood there quite perplexed, because they were talking about lenses, and I could see two remnants and occasional clear crops. I could see quite a steep dip, and I drew the view that this was it's a plunging system, because if it plunged regularly at 7 degrees, it'd be down at Perth by the time, 17 kilometers. So why does it go to surface? It was easy to see not easy to see, but one could see that, first of all, they only drilled the crops. They talked about desert cover, and desert cover is about 2 meters of concrete. And I sort of decided to beat every single trench. The trenches were not very deep, some of them quite superficial, and they'd been excavated with an excavator, but not very deep, and half sand filled, but we soon scraped the sand away. So that gave me a picture of both ends. And then there's a reference in the archives about the Dupree trench, and I went to visit that. And boy, this Dupree trench was taller than me. I'm not very tall, but, that was certainly no exploration trench, a couple of meters, 3 meters wide. And get out there quite perplexed. And then I saw in the distance there, not very much in the distance, several piles, and they was green as hell. So they were obviously copper rich. And it looked like a sorting place. And then I picked up 2 pieces of concrete, one more substantial than the other. And that was fairly evident that was a little crusher. And the guys had a table. Much more rooting around again in the archives, and came up with an Australian ASX release that just 2 kilometers away, they've got as much as 22 grams of gold and 3% copper. So, that is serious stuff anywhere in the world. And then I went that 2 kilometers away and figured out that must be the shaft, which was built by a former mining company, big company. And you know what? It was the most expensive borehole I've ever seen. It went down 140 meters, and it was 3.5 by 3.5. And that shaft killed the dream that the ore body would be going down to the middle of the earth forever, And they were postulating 5 million tons of contained copper. And it's inclinal. So what I want you to do is imagine a boat. It's got sides, and you can call those the limbs. The mining limbs, and they'll be our mining limbs. And then at the bottom there, at the bottom of the boat, instead of going into the slow curve, it probably flattens out. But still boat shaped. And I've taken the view that there are several of those over the 17 kilometers. Generally copper rich with some gold, and some gold being 0.4 to a gram. But you have had this area between Dupree and the shaft. Definite evidence of very, very high gold situation. So it's it's not a small district. The fact that people have decided to call one Hope and one Gorob is the convenience of outcrop. And then why did they aim all the drills to hit the ore body at 150 to 170 meters? And of course, I was daft not to realize it, but now I realize it. I realized it while I was there. But essentially, they couldn't handle oxides, gentlemen. They could not handle oxide. And so therefore took the view arbitrarily that drilling 170 meters below the oxides would be take them into the ore body, sulfide ore body proper, avoid oxides and avoid transition zones. And so they just couldn't treat them, so they didn't look for them. So now what we're doing, of course, and we tell you in the release there, and in the drill we started already, is that we're over at Gorob, but we're taking the machine to drill right at surface to see whether the ore body is continuous. And we'll be reporting later. On that. But that's the big test, because if it is continuous and we can do it over 5 kilometers, as the suggestion is at Gorob, that will immediately increase the tonnage there by at least a third. And, the grade should be about the same. But that's not what I'm interested in, really. We've got this potential for a big mining copper district. We'll pursue that. But that's not mutually exclusive to our plans to develop the Gorob mine and the Hope mine. But what we will be able to do, gents, is, assuming the theory is right, and let's hope it is, that we'll be able to have an open pit. So there we sit. If you look at the middle there, where the gold was in the central area, where the shaft was, 114 meters deep, 3.5 by 3.5. We can deepen that if we want. Down to about 300 meters, and to deepen the shaft's a damn sight cheaper than starting right from square one. We can put a single drum hoist at 6 tons an hour, which is, I did in my history at a place called Sleepy Piquet. So I've done that before in pretty similar surroundings, really. And then exit the open pit. When we get to the bottom of the open pit, we can start a decline. So we've actually had paved material all the way to where we start the decline. That decline needs to be 7 by 7 because we're not bringing ore out of the mine in trucks. We're bringing it up that little shaft. So that's for men and materials and ventilation, of course. One of them will be, one will be upcast, one will be downcast, so to speak. And so not only has the exploration provided me, particularly, with a massive insight to what we've got, it's given us a good old starter for our mine, and saved us quite a lot of money. If we utilize the shaft, and it looks quite a few kilometers either side. That's where the high gold was, as well as copper, good copper. So I only left thinking, gee whiz, this COVID-19, how it's inhibited people from really getting into the projects. But don't let's blame COVID-19, because I've got an history, really. That Calambila mine we sold, nothing there. And look who had it for the 10 years before me. I better not mention them because it's rude. But a major mining company. And 19 months later, we'd got 1.5 billion tons, as it was then, at 0.79. So 1.5 billion tons, gents, is a lot of rock. And what I saw at Hope and Gorob was what I call keel mining, keel exploration. You see the crop and you drill all around it. And that's like keel surgery. You've got to look at the bigger picture. And I'm afraid they didn't. And in fairness to them, it's very easy to be clever after the event. Always easy to be clever after the event. But, if I was drilling these holes in 1975, I wouldn't be interested in transition zone and oxides either, because I wouldn't be able to handle them with the plant that I'd be putting in. So I shouldn't be too clever for my own good. But I think the fact that there's probably quite a few of these boats, as I call them, along the 17 kilometers, I'm excited as to a potential copper tonnage and gold resource much higher than has been thought and postulated in the past. Significantly higher.
It sounds extremely interesting. I mean, even if you look at the JORC report for the Hope thing, you've got 10 million tons at 1.9% copper. So you've basically got 192,000 tons of copper, which is already, and 3,200 of silver as well. There's some silver in there as well, and gold. So even the 200,000 tons of contained copper I mean, what's that worth the way copper works today?
Well, multiply by 10 is $2 billion worth of rock there. And I don't know. That's what my figures say to me.
Yeah. So how on earth is Bezant worth what it's worth?
Oh, indeed. And now, a week ago, it had got two small mines, 7 to 10,000 ton a year, and 10,000 ton a year, by the way, is $100 million. So, that's what it had got. But now I think it's early days, and we've got to be fair to one another. It is early days. But, I think we're looking at here, apart from those two mines, a really big district, which can turn into a huge resource, which is well beyond the Bezant capability and is designed for the big boys. And remember, not designed is more suitable for. It's not designed for anything. It's there, and the big boys have got to define it. We'll just give them the outline, and we'll give them the suggestion that it's well worth doing. But it's really going to be a big project, in my view. The situation looks extremely rosy. And on that note, Namibia has been the place for big mines. There's been some big operations there. It's also the place for some small mines. But I have to say, we were made very welcome by the ministry, and made it very clear that they welcome foreign company participation at all levels, exploration, mining, etc. And from that point of view, very hospitable, and it couldn't have been a nicer trip. And what a pleasant surprise! What a pleasant surprise when we realised that what you read about is not necessarily what you get, and especially in geology when you're trying to second guess nature. So I'm very pleased. In a nutshell.
Yeah, and it sounds like obviously it's not going to be hugely expensive to investigate all of this, because a lot of the work has already been done, which is obviously extremely
well spoken there. That is, because that we have the benefit of 68,000 meters of drilling. There's $15 million gone to get to a position where we find it. So really, what we're doing now is just doing a bit of head scratching between surface outcrops. The Dupree shaft has been trench has been extremely helpful. They haven't checked what I think is the northern limb, so I suspect only one side of the boat has been looked at. And that shaft, once again, with a bit of plotting, a bit of thinking, a bit of head scratching, and me falling out with my local mining guy, and the consultants having their 5 bob, and is it in the footwall? Is it in the hanging wall? When it's normal to put a vertical shaft in the footwall, this thing was right bang in the centre of the ore body, which is that in its own right was amazing. Not only did they sink a shaft at 140 meters, they put it somewhere where they shouldn't, right bang in the middle of the ore body. So it's really eye-opening. It's a very good starter for 10 for our shareholders and would-be shareholders, and we look forward to giving them a very, very interesting run on this property.
So do you think
in the company generally, of course?
Yeah. Do you think in this current market, Colin, that you could actually buy this asset for the full market cap of Bezant, £8 million at the moment?
Well, in the copper market we're going, and the demand for copper, the demand for actual mines, it basically is, as always, we chief execs are always moaning about the actual share price versus the value, the asset value. But I mean, this one is a little bit, it is a massive disconnect. And hopefully shareholders and would-be shareholders see that, the value getting in is great. I mean, for, getting in now, I mean, Mankind, for example, that's, we've got 27.5% of that just waiting for the MPSA. That is extremely important too.
And you're gonna have Truly on Cyprus with CMRS as well, which is going to be a huge play. Hopefully by the end of this year, early next, you're going to be producing X number of tons of copper and some gold thrown in as well. And you're going to be benefiting from that. Hopefully with Jubilee as well thrown in.
Yeah, well, the equation. That we're sharing, Bezant is sharing with the exploration cost, and then we get 80% of the mine, provided we provide the money to build it, which we will. And the drill machine's been throwing up some from a visual point of view, and I think you're aware of that. The market's aware of that. Some some good looking stuff. But what we're talking about here, and this model is, and Martin is particularly good at this and very pragmatic, stands off the situation, works it out for himself, and it's a bit like me from the history point of view. He takes it with a pinch of salt and applies his own experience in history, and his own experience and knowledge. And what have we done? I mean, we've got an open pit, I think, if the results come back okay, and they're imminent. That can certainly be deepened, and they can be extended along the way there. The geology is becoming to be very interesting. Of course, the more you drill, the more you get to know it. And it looks strong on that fault area where there's the oxide cap. That's very exciting. And then there's, the dumps and the tailings dams sit there waiting to be worked. So it's not as though you've got to sink shafts. It's not as though you've got to do anything but deepen the existing open pit. Now, you don't just start digging, of course. You've got to push back the walls of the old pit. I should have think will tumble in on top of you. You don't want that. But, the startup is a civil engineering game, which won't be expensive. And in this day and age, it'll be one plant to suit the lot. So, again, very exciting. And here in Bezant, we've got 80% of the benefits provided we, provide the capital. And I don't think you could have the Carroll Bezant joint venture. I don't think could have a better start than this truly operation. It really is exciting, and again, it's almost, when you're talking about Hope and Gorob, you're almost talking truly in the same vein. You already we're beginning to extend it along strike. We're seeing those crops of that black submarine material, which dictates mineralization. Whether it's Lindsay potty, we don't know, but there's a good chance of being plenty of it. So, and then we've got the repeat situation down the way there. So, what an exciting start to Cyprus too. So, from a Bezant perspective, we could have 80% of a mine in Cyprus and our own mine in Hope and Gorob. Tremendously big exploration project, a 20-odd% stake in a Philippines porphyry, which has got 1.4 million tons of copper in it and 4.75 million ounces of gold. And as you say, all for 8 million market cap.
It seems a major disconnect, doesn't it?
It does, but that's the market and that's life, I mean, let's face it, that as a junior mining investor, junior resource company investor, you first of all, there's a lot of competition in the marketplace, caused by the events of early last year when there was quite a lot of interest in mining. They've got to sort out the wheat from the chaff. And when all the talk's finished, the results counts. And, I think we're beginning throughout the things I'm doing to produce good, consistent forecasted results, which hopefully gives shareholders the investment that the team, myself and the team around me, are on a mission, been there, know what to look for. And, it's all about intellectual thought, teamwork, not always consensus, because that's too easy. But by the time the team is finished, we know what we're up against.
My play on a few of these things is, yes, the harder you work, the luckier you get in terms of what you find. But it's also very interesting from what I keep hearing again and again, that the technology has advanced, that it allows some of these mines that were investigated and then just forgotten about for various reasons. Go to Cyprus, it was because of a war. Go to Namibia because one type of rock, they basically couldn't get the copper out of it. They didn't know how to. So there are many reasons to revisit some of these things, which you've been doing on a regular basis. And now they become totally feasible and extremely likely to make, huge amounts of money, especially with the price of copper. Gold is obviously firming up as well. So, yeah, I mean, it's extremely interesting. And yeah, I think Bezant, but for me anyway, having visited Truly, Bezant is worth more than Truly, never mind anything else you've discussed. So their option on Truly is more than but making the £8 million because of the potential there. And then obviously you've now got this other one coming in, and you've still got Mancuna, is it? Or I'm rubbish at pronouncing it. Mankind as well. So, it's like, what does everybody want? It's three extremely good assets now that probably, if we draw a picture in 18 months' time, there's going to be revenue coming from them all.
Yeah. And, listening to what you said, I agree with you entirely. Technology gives us another shot at it, particularly when you're all body modeling. In the old days, they used to draw a polygon, then another polygon. It was called, and then you worked out the influence of various bore holes at the tips of the polygon. And then if there was too big a gap between them, they would say there's a fault and there's a disconnect, there's a lens. But in today's day and age, when you've got data mining, you really, every single hole, negative or positive, has got some bearing on the actual final 3D design. So you're right, from a technological view, we've gone forward. But what amazes me, gents, is that there's massive amount of information which has probably been generated over 50 or 60 years by several teams, and nobody bothers to interrogate that information and actually put it in today's context. And that's what I've done at Hope and Gorob. That's what I did at Calambila. That's what I've done in Bushranger in Australia. And that's the story of my life, really. Because if you inherit a fortune's worth of raw data, why not interrogate that before you go blinding off doing your own little thing? And boy, has it worked for the companies we're involved in now, because, often it's a legal requirement to keep this information. So it's available. And if it's not available, a search might make it a bit available, and a deep search, you'll come across guys, who work there. Call them in and sit and have a couple of hours with them. And all of a sudden, things what didn't make sense start making sense. If the detective world, the police world behaved like the mining world, nobody would ever go to jail, because, that's their start point, trying to build up an history. We're just trying to create new history, a new thing in our game. And I don't know. I was going to say so sad, but it's our benefit. We should enjoy it, because we started in 2017 looking for big copper situations. Here we are now in 2022, and we've got some really enviable ones, Kevin.
I think it's safe to say that all of your companies are looking great value at the moment. There's real value there, and also, as you say, a call option to copper, most of them.
That's about right. That's right. And then you've always got the wild card of the gold, and which is not a bad metal to have an association, because over the lifespan of a mine, even an exploration project for that matter, there's enough geopolitical activity, negative activity, always to give a bit of a spike, and obviously that spike flows through and to the total revenues. So never two bad metals to have together, gold and copper. But as you say, I regard our company as a call option to copper.
Yeah, and Bezant, when I look at it now, it's good to say that the technology is allowing it to do this, and that's to its benefit. But that in no way has translated itself to the share price, because this is crazy in my view. Based on even what the share price was a year ago, and you've made great advances, it doesn't make any sense.
No,
you were at 30 odd p, 0.3 something in February, March last year.
Really? I can't recall that figure myself. Where are we now? We're struggling. We're struggling to get volume, and 0.16. Yeah, I know. And
you were 100% higher, and you had no.
If I remember rightly, Bezant hit 0.5 from when I remember the highs, half a p.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? And, I think, as strange as it is, that I'm not that much of a stopwatch. I'm just getting on with it. But you can't help. And I tend to look at market cap because, when you're issuing shares, you're building up that, but you're not achieving very much for everybody. So I kind of get that relationship between share price, market cap, and number of shares out, and all of that. But whichever way I turn this company, it is a massive disconnect. Let's go back to the magic figure, 8 million. Well, if you've got 8 million in your pocket, you could buy, gee whiz, the thoughts of buying all this lot, and but I think you've known me long enough now to know that I never, it's for us to demonstrate to the market that we're worth more, not for the market to demonstrate to us without a solid base that we're worth more. So the onus is on me and my management team to, in actual fact, prove that what we've got and what we're forecasting, our missions and our wishes and our dreams sometimes are, in actual fact, aimed towards the benefits of shareholders, and that put the lot together. And you could be looking for a very, very interesting, investment in our company. And I just look forward to more joining this. And it's a good time to be doing that. It's early in the year. It's a time when most of us are sorting ourselves out. We're not without geopolitical threats, but at the same time, that desire for copper, that need for copper, that forward forecast for copper, coupled with troubles in the world of the current producers, we have to be in a good position with the likes of Carroll and Bezant.
And you only have to look at the RNS today. I mean, those JORC reports, we're not talking about anything that is just an estimated resource. This is a JORC 12 report saying you have this much copper, and you believe there's a lot more, obviously, but this amount of copper alone is extremely significant. Again, we can only put the information out there, and we'll see what people do.
Yeah, I'm always available, and I think this is a very good platform for me to sort of talk to the shareholders, and I thank you very much for providing the platform. It's necessary. It's done informally and sometimes formally. I think it presents a very good media and a platform for our shareholders, and I say would-be shareholders, to try and understand. You see these RNSs, do they mean a lot? If mining's not your business, it's difficult to sort of tramp your way through what the company's trying to say. So thank you for providing the platform to allow me to say it.
Colin Bird, Executive Chairman of Bezant Resources, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Phil. Thank you. Thanks, Kevin.
God bless them.
This podcast was brought to you by Roast PR Limited. If you would like to appear on a future episode of The Sunday Roast, please email admin@thesundayroast.net.